Hello, Dippers, and welcome to Volume 24 of Hysteria. As always, I'm with my co-host, St. Louis correspondent, Fletcher Hoig.
Yeah, Leighton, there were some pretty good basketball games on last night. I tell you what, with that first one with Kansas, they looked to be as good as advertised. I mean, they got the big man play down low, and everybody saw that Quentin Grimes was the real deal. And then Michigan State, they might not have any big household names right now, but they're ranked very highly in the country, and it looks like they deserve to be. And in my opinion, I watched most of that Duke and Kentucky game, and I saw a little bit of everything. I saw, Zion can get to the rim whenever he chooses to. I saw that Duke, their three freshmen with R.J. Barrett, Zion, and Cam Reddish are as good as advertised. They really put it all over Kentucky. And then Kentucky, they might be a talented team, but, I mean, I've been saying it for the past couple of years now with them. They underperform, for what they're billed to be, and I saw a little bit of that last night. And just to give you a crazy stat, Duke's three freshmen, Cameron Reddish, Zion Williamson, and R.J. Barrett scored 89 points, and that outscored all of Kentucky by those three players by themselves. So pretty interesting night for opening night for college basketball. I'm ready to see what the rest of the season brings.
Yeah, last night, while watching that Duke-Kentucky game, I was watching Zion just absolutely physically dominate everyone on the court.
Yep.
How do you think he gets better in practice? Because nobody on that team is going to do anything against him.
Yeah, if I were him, I would probably take it pretty easy in practice. Not just because you're better than everybody else, but that's a part of it, But you don't want to hurt yourself and hurt your draft stock, because the only thing that can bring him down at all this year is clearly the possibility of an injury.
Yeah, I thought of that too. Because with his body type, you usually see people get hurt,
Yep.
pretty often. Alright, so, as always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Saucy Pod. Listen to the Most Up Show, starts on Saturday, Monday. Knuckle Sandwich every Thursday. And of course, Hysteria every Wednesday. And now, Fletcher, without further ado, stop the noise.
Humpday. Who's Hysteria?
A Sauce on the Side production.
So, in this week's show, I'll talk about things are really rocky for the Shamrocks. Things are bad for the Celtics right now. We got some really, really, really bad teams out there. And a lot of NBA teams, actually every NBA team, is scoring a shit ton of points. So, we'll start with the Celtics. I'll talk about here, but we'll start with Kyrie Irving. In the loss to the Nuggets, Jamal Murray shot a last-second shot to try to reach 50 points. He missed the shot, and then Kyrie threw the ball into the stands. He later said to reporters that that was bullshit, and he also fined $25,000 for throwing the ball into the stands. So from this, I have two things. You don't want a guy to get 50 points, don't let him score 48. And finally, for the first time, I don't know how long, we talked about actual, some fire out of Kyrie Irving, other than before they played the Warriors in the finals. There's always been a guy who the game of basketball has kind of come so easy to him, he never really had to show real fire or anything. But I'm happy to see it. What do you think about Kyrie Irving's comments and actions?
I tell you what, I watched that Pacers game when they played the Celtics, and I sat courtside for that whole game. And Kyrie Irving, I tell you what, during most of that game, he was in foul trouble, and so he's upset with that. And then I'm sure he thinks that the Celtics are a better team than the Pacers, so they lost to the Pacers on top of it. So I'm sure he was very frustrated during that game. I mean, he was talking to himself, he was talking to the refs, he was talking trash to Corey Joseph, the backup point guard for the Pacers. I mean, he was really just doing a whole lot of odd behavior. He was at one point he was sitting there saying like, "All right, this is it. This is when I start." And later on in the game, he hit some threes to put him ahead late, and then he botched the layup to pretty much seal the deal and essentially be the game winner. It would put them up by 4 points with about 3 seconds left. I'm sure that whole night really left a bad taste in his mouth. And then you fly over to Denver and you play Denver, and Jamal Murray drops 48 on you, and then he tries to score 50 or more by hitting the three at the very end of the buzzer. Kyrie Irving, I think, has just really kind of been frustrated in a bad place here lately, especially the Celtics started off hot, and they've really kind of tapered off now through the early parts of the season here. He was quoted by talking about the whole situation with Jamal Murray again, and he says, if you want to score 50, or he says, I understand scoring 50 is a big deal. He goes, but do it in regulation. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense considering he was going to have 51 at the very end of regulation. They didn't go to overtime. If you don't want there to be garbage time, play better to where your team's not in a position where you're just waiting for the clock to tick out at the very end. And, he got pissed off because he thought maybe Jamal Murray was showing him up, trying to drop 50, and he was right there on him at the end of the game. But, I didn't really see Kyrie Irving getting pissed off and saying anything to anybody when Jamal Murray was hanging out 48 on him throughout the rest of the game. So I'm not sure what to make of Kyrie right now. He has kind of rabbit ears, got the Kevin Durant syndrome going on. But also, talk about finally seeing some emotion out of Kyrie. When he hit that game winner in the finals, not that game winner, but that decisive, late three in the game 7 of the NBA Finals when the Cavaliers beat the Warriors, he was saying that he channeled his inner Mamba, and he had been working with Kobe Bryant there lately. And I tell you what, I've always kind of what am I looking for? Compared Kyrie Irving, not so much with Kobe Bryant, but really more so Allen Iverson. You look at a ball-centric guy, kind of a me-first guy. If he gets his and the team wins, then it's great. If he gets his and the team doesn't win, that's okay. And if the team wins and he does not get his, he's probably going to be upset about it. So that's kind of what I'm seeing right now. Kyrie's not getting his and the team isn't winning, and this frustration is really boiling over. And I feel like it's more of a childish, temperamental kind of release, more so than a competitive fire release.
Yeah, but go back to the point. I love your point. You said like 2 on 48, 51 points. Like, don't let him score first 38 points and talk shit trying to score 50.
Yeah,
obviously he's going to do that.
I didn't see him throwing the ball in the stands anywhere, during the game when he was scoring on them at will. So,
yeah. Talking about Kyrie Irving's teammate, though, is supposed to be starting that team, Gordon Hayward. We all know he missed all but 2 minutes of last season with a brutal ankle injury. Came back this year and he hadn't played very well at all. Just before the 76ers Pacers game started on the countdown thing, Jalen Rose said that he thinks Hayward will be on the bench come this time next week. But when you look at the stats, Gordon Hayward is shooting worse, but he's not performing that much as poorly as he made out. He is throwing like 10 points a game, but he's shooting 61% less shots than he did last season in in Utah. And I got a chance to watch a little bit of the film from this season and last season in Utah, and he is showing less explosiveness. And I don't know if the ankle just didn't heal super strongly, or was on his head or what. But what do you think is going on Hayward right now?
I follow Gordon Hayward pretty closely. I've watched him work out most of the summer. The one thing he kept making note of, he was playing 5-on-5 by the postseason last year. He was playing 5-on-5. He was able to get up and down the court and shoot and play. The one thing he kept saying all throughout the summer, and even the coaching staff and the trainers leading up to this season, and even during the season, they were like, "Yeah, he's fine. He's running and moving and jumping like he can." The thing is, though, he was off that ankle and that foot and that leg for so long, both legs really, that he's kind of lost his explosiveness in an NBA standard, and it's going to take time to get that. It's just going to take repetition. It's going to be back on the court, using those muscles, running in that same way, 94 feet back and forth. It's just going to take time, and if they do bench him, it's not anything to do with a career trajectory or anything like that, or him falling off as a player. It's really just to get him right. You look at the 10 points per game. Not a big deal. He's playing 25 minutes or less in every single game. They've got him on a minutes restriction pretty hard. It's there's a whole lot of at play here. You got the healthy team with Kyrie, Gordon Hayward, and now you have the immersion and the rise of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum out there. So you're mixing all these pieces together, and you still have Scary Terry on the bench. You've got a lot of pieces you're throwing together. So you're trying to get the injury and the leg and the fatigue, everything together. Then you're also working on chemistry. There's a lot of moving parts here right now. And Gordon Hayward shooting 33% from three, which is not awful, not great. He's shooting about 41% from the field. But the biggest thing is he's playing 25 minutes a game. There's a lot of moving parts with the injury and the fatigue. So I'm not, by no means am I hitting the panic button. Boston, even if they don't do well this year or don't win the title this year, they're going to be here again next year. And if you have presumed health again with all these guys ready to go in a year together, playing together, they're only going to go up. So I'm not really worried about Gordon Hayward's health for the immediate future, and I'm not worried about the Celtics for this year or their immediate future either.
So you said that you don't think the ankle injury, is going to ruin his career by any means. That's more just getting used to getting muscle strong again. Do you think that almost playing on the bench will actually help them into lineups, or do you think that he should be starting right now?
I think he should be playing. I do think he should be starting, just because mainly, I mean, when he's healthy, he's clearly one of the top 5 players on their team. He's clearly going to start, and he makes a difference in the Eastern Conference. He's going to be a 20-point a game guy or close to it, depending on how everything goes. I think they should still continue to start him and keep playing him in limited minutes. And I only say continue to start him just because you need him getting reps with those other first team guys. So even you can build the injury. You can build the chemistry now, even if the injury itself and getting your explosiveness back off of 1 foot or 2 foot and the speed and everything, that takes time. But you can at least build the chemistry. So I would continue to start him and at least build him with Kyrie, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, and I speak about the team. The team itself is underperforming to the standard that everybody placed upon them and placed on themselves. They're 6-4. They score the 4th fewest points per game in the entire NBA. Still over 100, but it's 4th fewest. You got a chance to go to personal this past week. What do you think the overall problem is?
Well, like I said, they've had a lot of overturn, I guess. They lost Kyrie in the middle of the season. They never really even had Gordon Hayward except for 5 minutes to start the season. So they've had a lot of moving pieces. It looks like at this point, I mean, they had that game 1, the very first game against Philadelphia, really housed them. And then after that, it's been difficult finding out who to do what. You don't see a whole lot of movement and flow with the team. You see guys hitting the ball and saying, "Okay, it's your turn. Okay, now it's your turn." Whereas things aren't coming, organically within the flow of the offense. And they have lost to some good teams. I mean, they've lost to the Raptors. They've lost to the Pacers. They've had some close games here and there. They've lost to the Bucks as well. So I mean, and then the Nuggets the other night. The Nuggets are 9-1 somehow. They've been playing close games. They've been having, losses to good teams. But, to be a good team or be a great team, you have to beat those teams as well. They really just have to figure out a way to click together. And I think it's just taking more time. What you saw in the beginning of the season, I don't think is something that's going to be, or that was an immediate recipe for how things were going to go for the rest of the year. It's going to take time. It's going to take it's just going to take that. It's time. And with the game I watched, Kyrie was in foul trouble, but what really saved him was Marcus Morris coming in off the bench, and he really shot well from 3. So the bench play is there for them, but it's just going to take time, chemistry, getting Hayward back and healthy.
Looking out today that Scary Terry Rozier wants out of Boston, that he hadn't been happy with his playing time and wants to be traded. Now that that's known, it makes him harder to be traded. Do you think he'll be traded? And if so, what's he even worth?
Yeah, that's a good question, what he's worth. I think the offense that he showed during the postseason is not something that you can really expect. Moving forward, you shouldn't expect him to be, very efficient scorer in the upper teens or low 20s. Thinking that's what you're getting from your point guard. Which you have to be realistic. He can provide. He can be serviceable on offense, but really where you're going to see him really impress is with his speed and with his defense. And that's what teams really need to consider when they're trading for him. Sure, you can put him in the flow of the game, and you can get him 30 minutes plus a game, and you can give him the ball, and he, he's going to get his. Like I said, he's going to be serviceable on offense. He's going to get you what you want. But if you think you're trading for a top tier point guard and Terry Rozier, you really need to reconsider what you're looking at.
Yeah, Terry Rozier, like you said, he had that one great playoff, a great season last year, nice bench guy. So you got temporary expectations. Where would you rank him in terms of point guards in the NBA? I don't even know, but like a range.
Yeah, a range, maybe 30 to 40, 45, something like that. I mean, he's obviously there are 30 point guards roughly that are better than him. Otherwise, he would have been traded for a lot sooner, or he would be starting somewhere. Obviously, not with the Celtics, but I mean, he sat on the bench with Boston for a long time, and that was even before Isaiah Thomas was dropping 30 a game too. So I put him in the 30 to 40 range, probably maybe 45. But he, if he gets more minutes and has a bit more of the offense ran through him, you can see that rank increase. It's just depending on opportunity and if he's able to come through on his opportunity, I guess.
Yeah, and that's basically what I thought too. Like, serviceable as point guard, career backup.
Yeah, Phoenix has looked at trading for him. They're, as Drake would say, kicking the tires, so to speak. He would be good there. Phoenix has really nothing at point guard. Yeah, they have nothing at point guard. So really, a good way of looking at Terry Rozier and what he could provide to your franchise. In the NFL, they talk about having franchise quarterbacks, but one thing that gets kind of underrated in talking about trying to find your franchise quarterback is trying to hold. Let me back up. They talk about franchise quarterback as finding your guy. Another thing that's important is finding you the guy to hold you over until you find the guy. So like Alex Smith is kind of a good example with that. He held it over until they found Patrick Mahomes and what he's been this year. Terry Rozier would be the same thing for you. Terry Rozier is going to give you 3 or 4 years of really quality basketball, and he's going to hold you over until you finally get that big franchise piece you're looking for.
Yep, and the Suns are a bad team. And the Lava team are in the NBA. As a matter of fact, 15 teams had a losing record. Last year at this time, 12 teams did, so not a giant increase, but it's still an increase. 7 of the teams have 3 wins or fewer. One of those teams being the Washington Wizards. Other notable teams with losing records are the Rockets, Lakers, Timberwolves, and Utah Jazz. Mm-hmm. We discussed the Rockets and Lakers problems at length in the show already. What are other causes for concern, if any, for the other 3 teams on this list?
Yeah, Washington, I talked about Boston, and what I saw to some extent, it was guys trying to take their turn, so to speak, like it was Jason's turn. Jalen was, on the break, or it was his time to shoot the ball. Kyrie, they're all kind of taking their turns, and then you're mixing Gordon Hayward in and out. And it's not that bad. It's not noticeable, but you see glimpses of it here and there. With Washington, it is so on display. It's bad. You got guys who are out there really looking out for themselves solely. I mean, John Wall, we all know he's never been a wee guy. He gets his assist, but he's another one of those guys who dribbles, over dribbles, comes off 3 pick and rolls, or gets out in the break and finds someone early. He gets those kind of cheap assists that you would get on 2K with your My Player just to bump your teammate grade up. Brad Beal, I really like him a lot. I feel like he's kind of thrown into a bad mix, and it's kind of worn on him. It's kind of one of those deals where the environment's kind of shaping his performance. Dwight Howard, he's never been a guy who really gels in any locker room, and they've got some younger guys who have grown up in that system and that culture with Kelly Oubre, Otto Porter Jr., and then Austin Rivers. I've never been a big Austin Rivers fan. I said he was going to be 6th man of the year coming in. I thought that Washington would kind of fix these woes and that he would really find a nice role for himself there, carve it out for himself. He's not. It's really taken a turn for the worse. It's probably a little toxic. You saw what Scott Brooks had when he was with Oklahoma City, how he could never really get Westbrook and Durant to gel, and I think you're kind of seeing that on a larger scale here with the Wizards. The Utah Jazz, I'm a firm believer, in statistics. They talk about if you have a smaller sample size, it can really influence your results, where instead of having that nice bell curve of distribution, it can get skewed to one end or the other. I think that's what you're seeing with the Jazz. Their sample size of games just isn't large enough yet. They've got some really quality pieces, a lot of guys who can defend the rim, defend on the wing. They have a future superstar in Donovan Mitchell as well. Yeah, and with Minnesota, we know what their problems are. It's with Tibbs and his inability to massage players into their roles and their minutes. Jimmy Butler is very unsatisfied with and the way the front office management has been handling things, and it's hard to really go out there and give your best effort when you're playing with the best player on your team who does not want to be there. I've been in situations like that before, and it's hard to go out there and give it your all. It's hard to even go out there and respect your coach at times, and I think that's what you're seeing there in Minnesota. And the Rockets and the Lakers, rebounding defense, those are going to be concerns for them until things change. The Lakers did sign Tyson Chandler, who's going to be a really good help defender and an anchor in that back line of the defense. He's going to be like kind of the quarterback or the safety. He's going to be out there, telling guys where to be, telling guys where to help. Going to communicate well, going to be a good presence for a lot of those younger guys. So,
yeah. So to take it back a little bit, thought with the Wizards, you said Valley Bill, the coach's not working for him. Valley Bill as a player, look at 2 or 3 years ago, was really rising with John Wall, and people thought they could, really lead this team to better things. Do you think that ship has just sailed and it's time to move on from Bradley Beal?
Nothing against Bradley Beal, but if I'm the Wizards front office, I look at my team and I say, am I closer to winning a championship or am I closer to being in the lottery? And with John Wall and Brad Beal, the way the East is shaped out with Toronto and Milwaukee, Indiana, the Boston Celtics, you got to be realistic. You got to trade those guys looking for pieces to start over. Bradley Beal, he's definitely a talented player. I mean, this year he's still averaging 23, shooting 48% from the field, 37% from three. He's getting 4 and 4 a game. And he's been a very career efficient scorer, shooting 45% and 39% from three. Brad Beal is not to blame here, but if you're the Wizards, you gotta move off him. You got to move off Wall, Oubre Jr., Otto Porter Jr. You got to really reassess what you're doing here because you're not in the short list to sign Durant or any other big time free agent. You got to really reassess, and I think it's time to start rebuilding.
Yeah, and the other play talked about Dwight Howard. If I doesn't really join the locker room, don't know what the hell he's doing. He's making $5 million this year, play an option for next year.
Mm-hmm.
I think both agree that they'll look to trade him at some point in the season. Things keep going bad. Do you think they do trade him, or kind of just buy him out to get him out of there?
You talking about with Dwight?
Yeah.
I think it's kind of crazy to ask for right now that you trade Dwight and really get something for him. He's played 3 games this year, and in the 3 games he's playing, he's not. I'm sure he's averaging 13 and 8, which is great. But I don't know. I don't know what team. You know the MO on Dwight. You know what he's going to give you. He's going to be a little bit of a bitch. He's going to be a little bit of a diva. He's going to go out there and rebound, and he's going to shoot an okay percentage from the floor. But is he really worth what you're getting out of that? I don't know. You could maybe sell him for cheap, buy him out. Where you're going to get your biggest return on investment is Wall, Beal, Oubre Jr., and Otto Porter Jr. Those guys are more than serviceable right now in this NBA. So,
yeah, and I'm going to talk about the Timberwolves. Talk about Tibbs not being a Joe players. Do you think this is strictly a Tibbs problem? Because they have Jimmy Butler, they have Conte Town, Anthony Wiggins, Jeff Teague, Derrick Rose, a lot of good players on this team, and they're 4-7. They barely got into the playoffs last season. Let's just say, for example, they had, hell, I don't know, Nate McMillan as the head coach. Do you think they'd be way better off then after be a competitive team in the West?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Nate can get you to buy in on offense, but he can also be an approachable guy that works well with others. He's acquired a lot of different pieces, and you've seen a superstar arise in Indianapolis and Victor Oladipo. And, I mean, Nate has really kind of handled the whole situation well. He's handled it as well as you could have asked for an NBA coach. Tibbs, we all know what Tibbs is about. He's going to overplay his starters. He's going to demand a whole lot from you, which you don't mind, a coach demanding everything you've got, sure. But at the same time, this isn't, a fourth grade all-star team we're talking about here that's playing 20 games, teaching kids the value of hard work or something. These are pros. These are grown men. We all know what matters in the NBA, and that's May and June. And Tibbs has never made it there, so I don't expect him to really understand that. But even in his offseason acquisitions, you look at the Jimmy Butler trade and it looks good, and you look at the Jeff Teague acquisition, it looks good. But it's like in the same offseason where you had Paul Millsap and Taj Gibson on the free agent market, you would like to go after Taj Gibson. Tibbs is one of those coaches who quote unquote has his guys. You hear about people in professional sports protecting their guys. It's like, oh, I came up with him, or I know him, or I found him. Like, I'm going to give him a little longer of a leash. That's what you're seeing with Tibbs. He's got his guys, and he's going to ride them out. So there's nothing in Minnesota that I see that could change other than getting rid of Tibbs.
You think they get rid of Tibbs?
Restarting. They should. I would. I've been saying it for a year and a half or however long I've been saying it, but he can be a coach in the NBA somewhere, but for the Timberwolves to make him president of basketball operations, absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, before we move on, what's more likely? The Timberwolves end the season with Tibbs as coach or Jimmy Butler on the roster?
They are more likely to end the season as with Tibbs as their coach.
Okay. And
let me ask you a quick question.
Let's hear it.
Do you think it's likely that Dwight Howard makes it into the Hall of Fame?
Oh, man. Looking back at his career numbers and his Olympic success, I almost want to say yes. Because that's why Carmelo's going to get in. Carmelo's going to get in because he was one of the greatest scorers for a decade and really good internationally. Dwight Howard was the best center in the league for several years, dominant for a long time, and really good internationally.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards yes.
Yeah, he's averaged a double-double literally every single year that he's been in the NBA. He's won Defensive Player of the Year a few times. He's averaged 17 and 13 for his NBA career. I mean, these are really impressive numbers. I think it's going to be one of those arguments where people look at it and say, in between the lines on the court, what did he provide? And you see what he provided. But I think it's kind of the off-court stuff like you saw with Terrell Owens, what people are going to maybe not let him in or not let him in soon enough.
I feel like social media era hurts him too, having everything on replay all the time.
Yeah.
I feel like that didn't do any favors.
Yeah. I mean, you look at Dwight, he's led the NBA in, rebounding 5 times. He's led the NBA in blocks twice. He got really good numbers. I just wonder, he's played 82 games 4 times in his career too, which all these numbers are really impressive. It's just the whole how he fits with other people, I think, is really going to hurt him.
Yeah. I don't know, that'd be an interesting thing that happened. It's probably one of the more interesting guys to talk about. Sometimes this show will talk about guys and their Hall of Fame chances once they retire. But now, we're on to a game called Let's On the Fly. This will ask Fletcher 3 questions, and time to prepare for them, and answer them all on the fly. This week, we're going to play a fun game called Rank 'em. I give Fletcher 3 players. He has to rank them for the position. We'll do this throughout the season several times. We'll have some guys be on more than one, some guys just one time. We'll see what happens. The first guy, at the point guard position, Damian Lillard.
And so I'm just ranking Damian Lillard now, right?
Amongst point guards, yep.
Amongst point guards. Well, this is going to be a difficult one. Just give me a second here. I'm running through some names real quick here.
You're good.
I probably got him way higher than most, but I mean, for me, Steph Curry is the best point guard in the NBA. And then after that, I'm really kind of picking what's left. I'm not big on Russell Westbrook. Everyone knows that. I'm not huge on Kyrie Irving. Kyle Lowry's having a really great year, but it's taken him forever to do this, and he's playing with one of the best players in the league. Point guards, there are a lot of good point guards in the NBA right now, for sure, no doubt. I tell you what, though, I'm going to put Damian Lillard number 2. I would go Steph, and then I would want Damian Lillard, and then I would want Kyrie Irving. And after that, it gets really hard. I mean, I'm not big on John Wall. I'm not big on Russell Westbrook. Mike Conley is a very serviceable point guard. Kyle Lowry is very good, But for me, I would take Damian Lillard over all those guys. He can finish at the rim. He shoots it efficiently, and he can get others involved. So
I have to think, actually. I had him at number 3 behind Steph and Kyrie. So,
okay.
In top 3. Next player, this is a guy that I'm really fond of. I like his game a whole lot. I like what he can become. My co-host Drake hates him, and that's Devin Booker. Where does he rank among shooting guards?
Well, I'll tell you what, it's hard for me to rank James Harden as a pure shooting guard, but for the sake of argument, I'm going to do it with this. I would take Klay Thompson as the best shooting guard in the NBA. I'll go ahead and throw James Harden number 2, and then after that, it's do you consider Jimmy Butler a shooting guard? I consider him a small forward. They play Wiggins on most of the 2 guards just because he doesn't have that physical nature. After that, man, at that point I got to go Devin Booker. The dude's averaging 24 plus a game with 4 assists and 4 rebounds. The youngest player to ever score 70 plus points in a game. I've already got him the 3rd best. With that being said, though, the shooting guard depth right now in the NBA is not super high, but for me it goes Klay, James Harden, and James Harden. I would personally view him as a point guard. It's tough to rank him, but he hasn't played much defense at all. Klay is a tremendous defender, and he is an efficient scorer, and he can get hotter than anybody in the NBA. So I got Klay 1, Harden 2, and then Devin Booker 3.
So you're putting Booker over Oladipo and DeRozan?
Yeah, I'm definitely putting him over Oladipo and DeRozan. Oladipo and DeRozan, they're going to round out the top 5 for sure. I don't really think anybody was super sold on DeMar DeRozan being some elite level shooting guard. He's having a great year in San Antonio, and I hope he continues it, and I hope he stays healthy. Oladipo, you've only seen it for 2 years. Granted, I've enjoyed the year, and not even 2 years, but this past year and early this year, I've really enjoyed seeing it. So hope he continues it. I think Oladipo is going to be a very poor man's version of Dwayne Wade, so I'm looking forward to watching him for the next few years. But, yep, I got Devin Booker 3rd.
Yeah, I had Devin Booker at 5th, but I also had Jimmy Butler counted as a shooting guard. So if you don't do that, he'll be 4th. Our last player At power forward, Draymond Green.
Draymond Green. Oh my God, power forward is a hard position to rank. All reality, I mean, if Draymond Green played on a team like I don't know, if he didn't play on such a team with guys who were stuffing the stat sheet, if he played on a lesser team, he would really fill up the numbers. I mean, he would be one of those guys, kind of like Ben Simmons out here getting like 16, 9, and 9 a game or something like that. And you already know what he brings defensively. It's hard to rank power forwards because it's just depending on who goes into a lineup where. I mean, you could have LeBron, Giannis, Ben, a lot of different Durant on his own team even, all playing the four. And it's just hard to rank. I'll put him somewhere between like 9 to 15, just because it's really hard to rank. If I'm just going to go ahead and give you a number off the top of my head, I'll give him the best ranking possible, and it'll be like a 9 or a 10. He's definitely top 10 in his position. I could see how he would slip depending on who is playing power forward at that time, though.
Yeah. In my mouth, I'm at 8. Defense means a lot in this.
Yeah, that's really what propels him forward because his three-point shooting isn't really comparable to some of that of his teammates. He gets others involved really well, though, but what he brings defensively, being able to guard 1 through 5, is really something you don't see very often.
All right, and that'll flip to on the fly, and I'll be back every single week. Now move on to the best team right now. On Ducks in the Pond, the baseball podcast, also on the side, every week we do it. The season is right now, and we get division leaders and wild card for each league. We're not going to give you 16 teams. We're just going to tell you what we think the best team in each conference is and the overall NBA. So we'll start on the East. The Raptors haven't lost all week. They're 10-1. The Bucks are 8-2, still playing very strong. Meanwhile, the 76ers and Celtics are both struggling. I think the best team in the East is the Raptors. Fletcher, what do you think?
Yeah, as more time's gone on, and having the chance to watch the Celtics for 48 minutes to see kind of what's going on there. Right now, if I was forced to pick who would win tomorrow, I would definitely take the Raptors. And the thing is, I think the Raptors have already. Yeah, they beat in the second game of the season. So I mean, both teams really had an excuse of chemistry and working guys out of injury and getting guys together and all that. And the Raptors, I mean, they blew out the Lakers and they sacked Kawhi. So I mean, that's a huge sign. Like you said, they're sitting 10-1. I really love the moves they made. I said it before the season started. That's why I can't bet the Celtics win total at this point in time. But to say that I saw this coming would be an absolute lie. Toronto is really, really impressing me early. The Bucks, like you said, they're still playing strong. They started off 8-0. They dropped 2 in a row. Definitely not super worried about that. They're going to fight for a 4 seed all year long at the very worst case scenario. Adding that length at the power forward and center spot while still maintaining that shooting is huge for them. The 76ers and the Celtics are struggling. But with that being said, though, the Celtics are still a top 4 team, and they've been playing a lot of close games, losing to good teams. Philly, I said this really early in the year, and I think that teams, they didn't really change a whole lot. They didn't change their team dynamic. They didn't really improve a lot. They're doing a lot of the same stuff that they did all last year. And the thing is, they hit that winning streak big last year. They added Marco Bellinelli and Ersan Ilyasova. They hit that big, long winning streak, propelled them up to 50 games, got them the 3 seed. But those guys are gone. And then on top of that, you're playing lineups that involve Ben Simmons out there with T.J. McConnell playing the 2. That makes zero sense to me when you could have had Mikal Bridges out there defending and finishing at the rim and shooting. Markelle Fultz, he's still in flux. You're not sure what you're getting. You want to see more good, sooner rather than later. But Philly, I think teams are just kind of figuring out the MO on them. I mean, they're doing the same thing. They know what Ben Simmons and Embiid are going to do. They're probably going to tear you up themselves. And then, if J.J. Redick can get hot, they might win. And if not, they might lose. And that's kind of what you're seeing here early.
Yep. And I'll go to the West side. Last week, it was no-brainer. We're the best team in the West. But the Nuggets only lost 1 game all season. And in fact, they've handed the Warriors the only loss of the year. I still think the Warriors are the best team in the Western Conference. They're in first place still. 1 more win than the Nuggets. Just 4 all-NBA players, 1 on the bench. Great coach, great bench players. Fletcher, who do you think the best team in the West is?
Well, your best team in the West in the NBA is the Golden State Warriors. They have really made me look pretty stupid here when I talk about the fatigue and the injuries. They pretty much silenced that early on. there's not a whole lot I can say about them. The people already know. I mean, they're doing the same thing they've been doing pretty much, so I'm not going to talk about that a whole lot. But Denver, I had them as a team that could sneak into the playoffs. And you actually, forced me to make a pick here out of 3 teams, and one of the teams that you asked me to think would be a sleeper for a 4 seed would be the Denver Nuggets. I had them coming in and making the playoffs this year. Definitely, again, if I said I saw them starting this well, I'd have been lying. But Denver has really, really impressed me. They've been playing with great pace. They've been defending well. Jokic, Murray, a lot of those guys are really mixing well together. I really hope that they can get Michael Porter Jr. healthy, and he comes on and has a strong year next year, and you see this team really just take it even to another level. And you can never discount the actual home court advantage they have with that altitude playing at that pace. So that's a huge plus for them. I'm excited to see what the rest of the season holds for Denver if they can maintain this success.
And now for the overall NBA, I think it's the Warriors, defending champions. Not showing any kind of a hangover, playing good as they have been during this dynasty. Fletcher,
What?
Best team in the NBA?
Oh, yeah, no, the Warriors. I'm sorry. Yeah, I already said that. The best team out west and the best team in the NBA are the same team. That's the Warriors right now. If Kawhi was playing at a really high all-star level, maybe the Raptors could challenge them. But right now, at this moment in time, the Warriors are by far better than everybody, I think.
And maybe some week that'll change, but not for this week. Now we move on to the game of the week. First of all, both good game we're excited to look at. My pick this week is on Sunday night. It's the Bucks at Nuggets. Bucks are 8-2, Nuggets are 9-1. 2 teams that both have really surprised this season, to a whole lot of points. I'm excited to see how that one shakes out between 2 rather young, good upcoming teams.
Yeah. My game of the week is actually tomorrow at 9:30 on TNT. You're going to get to watch the Bucks play the Warriors. That's going to be a really good matchup. You're going to see a lot of length and a lot of talent and a lot of just sheer athleticism on Milwaukee's part. Then they have a really loaded defense, and then you're going to see this juggernaut that is the Golden State Warriors. I'm really excited to watch that. Spread. I don't think the spread is. Yeah, I'm looking right now, and the spread isn't up yet, but. Look for Golden State to be favored, obviously, but that's one game I'm really intrigued by. I'm really looking forward to the matchups with Giannis and Durant and Draymond Green, and then all the other pieces at play. So that's my game of the week.
Yeah, that will be a good game to watch too. And this has been Volume 24 on Hysteria. As always, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the Saucy Pod. Listen to most of Saucy on the side every Monday. Nuggets Chance every Thursday, and this show every Wednesday. We will have more calls for you throughout the season, but for right now, from Fletcher. From Leighton, as always, stay saucy.